All right, so you're gearing up for a specialized outdoor animator interview. How exciting.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool gig, right?
Absolutely. And we've got a whole bunch of RoleCatcher resources to help you nail it.
Those guides are gold mines, seriously.
They really are. Our mission here is to give you that extra edge,
Hmm.
go beyond just the basics.
Love that. Deeper dive, more insights. Let's do it.
Exactly. So we're going to unpack those common interview
The
questions.
ones that make you go, ooh, how do I even answer that?
Yep, those. Sprinkle in some insider career tips we found in RoleCatcher's guides.
Because who doesn't love a little insider knowledge?
Right. And then we'll even touch on how RoleCatcher's using AI to help you tailor your answers.
AI for interview prep. Okay, I'm intrigued.
I know, it's pretty cool stuff. But first, let's define what a specialized outdoor animator actually is.
Because it's a lot more than just loving the outdoors, right?
Right. So what makes this role so unique?
Well, it's about leading challenging activities, understanding the needs of a really diverse group of clients.
And often, working in environments that are, well, a little unpredictable.
Exactly. Safety and leadership skills are absolutely essential.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. So it's not just about taking folks on a leisurely nature walk, is it?
Not quite. Think more along the lines of leading a kayaking trip for a group with varying physical abilities.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a whole other level of responsibility.
Exactly. You need to adapt the activity, make sure everyone feels included and safe, all while dealing with potential weather changes, equipment issues.
Sounds intense, but also incredibly rewarding, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It's challenging for sure, but the impact you can have is huge.
Okay, so let's jump right into those interview questions.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher has a list of 10 common ones.
Let's tackle them.
First up, and this one seems pretty straightforward. Tell us about your experience working with children and young people in an outdoor setting.
Seems simple enough, but how do you make your answers stand out?
That's the key, right? How do you really impress them with this one?
Well, this is where I think the STAR method can really come in handy.
STAR method. Tell me more.
So instead of just listing off your experiences, you use the STAR approach to structure your answer. Situation, task, action, result.
Okay, I'm following. So walk me through it. How would you use that for this specific question?
All right, so let's say for the situation, you were leading a scout troop on a weekend camping trip.
Okay, a classic outdoor experience. Paints a good picture already.
Exactly. Then you describe the task. What were you specifically responsible for?
So maybe planning the route, teaching survival skills, or even just managing the group dynamics.
Exactly. Next, you outline the actions you took to complete that task.
Did you have to adapt the route for a younger scout who was struggling? Or maybe resolve a conflict between two troop members?
Perfect examples. And finally, you highlight the result. Did the group successfully complete the hike? Did they learn new skills and have a positive experience?
Ah, I see. So it's not just about what you did, but also about the impact you made.
Exactly. The STAR method makes your answer memorable and demonstrates your competence.
That's brilliant. I'm definitely using that.
It's a game changer for sure. Helps you structure those rambling stories we all have.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely guilty of rambling sometimes. So that's a great tip for that first question. Now, what about those curveball questions that throw you off a bit?
Ah, yes, the ones that make you sweat a little.
Exactly. RoleCatcher lists this one. How do you ensure the safety of participants during outdoor activities? This feels like a pretty high-stakes one, right?
It absolutely is. Safety is paramount in this role. So you want to show you're not just winging it.
Okay, so how do you go beyond the basics?
Well, think about certifications. Having wilderness first responder certification, for example, can really give you an edge here.
Makes sense. Shows you're prepared for the unexpected.
Right. You could say something like, I'm a certified wilderness first responder, so I'm trained to handle a variety of medical emergencies in remote settings.
Perfect. Highlights your qualifications right off the bat.
Exactly. But it's not just about certifications, it's about showcasing your proactive thinking, too.
So how would you demonstrate that?
You could say, before any activity, I always conduct a thorough risk assessment.
Okay, risk assessment, that's a good starting point.
Yeah, and you can get specific. I consider factors like weather conditions, terrain, and the participants' skill levels.
Shows you're thinking about all the angles.
Right, and then you can add, I also establish clear safety protocols and communication plans.
So it's about being prepared for different scenarios.
Absolutely. Think about things like, what if someone gets separated from the group? What if the weather suddenly changes?
You've got to have a plan for everything.
As much as you can, And don't be afraid to use examples from your experience to illustrate these points.
Oh, right, like specific situations where you had to think on your feet.
Exactly. Maybe you had to adapt a kayaking route due to unexpected winds, or implement a buddy system during a rock climbing session.
Those real-life examples definitely make a
They
difference.
show you've actually dealt with these things, not just read about them in a manual.
Okay, so we've covered safety. Let's move on to another crucial aspect of this role. Inclusivity.
Creating a welcoming and supportive environment for everyone.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher asks this: how do you create a positive and inclusive environment for participants from diverse backgrounds?
Ah, a big one. It's more than just being friendly and welcoming, right?
Right. So what are they really looking for with this question?
They want to see that you've thought about the needs of individuals from different cultures, abilities, and experiences, and more importantly, how you adapt to those needs.
Okay, so it's about going beyond just the surface level.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
is where, again, those specific examples can really shine.
Give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you've led a group with varying physical abilities on a nature walk.
Oh, a great example.
Eh.
How did you ensure everyone felt included and could participate at their own pace?
Right. Or maybe you've used visual aids to communicate with someone who is hard of hearing, or adapted an activity to be wheelchair accessible.
Those are fantastic examples. It shows you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, so to speak.
Hopefully walking it outdoors.
Of course, outdoors. But what about situations where, maybe a participant feels uncomfortable or excluded? How do you handle that sensitivity?
Oh, that's a great question, and it shows you're thinking deeply about these scenarios. You could say something like, I would create a safe space for open communication. Actively listen to their concerns.
Active listening. That's key in any situation, really.
It really is. And then continue with and work collaboratively to find solutions that address their needs and ensure a positive experience for everyone.
So it's about problem solving and working with the participants.
Exactly. And, mentioning any diversity and inclusion training you've had can be a huge plus here.
That makes sense. It shows you're proactive about learning and growing in this area.
Right. It's not just about good intentions. It's about having the knowledge and skills to back it up.
Speaking of valuable skills and knowledge, I'm really intrigued by RoleCatcher's advice on building a portfolio.
Yes. Going beyond the resume, showing, not just telling.
Exactly. So what kind of things could go in a portfolio for this kind of role?
Think of it as a visual representation of your passion and expertise. Photos are great. Videos.
Capturing those amazing outdoor moments.
Exactly. You leading groups, teaching skills, showcasing the beautiful environments you've worked in.
I bet testimonials from past participants would be powerful too.
Absolutely. Hearing firsthand accounts of how you've positively impacted people's lives, that's powerful stuff.
Really adds that personal touch. Okay, this portfolio idea is a game changer. I'm definitely gonna have to look into that further.
It's a fantastic way to make a lasting impression, for sure.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead, let's get back to those interview questions. RoleCatcher lists this one. How do you plan and organize outdoor activities?
Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
It does, but I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, there definitely is. They want to see your structured approach to planning, from choosing activities to handling logistics like transportation and equipment.
So it's about demonstrating those organizational skills and attention to detail.
Exactly. It's not just about picking a fun activity and hoping for the best.
Got it. So how would you structure an answer to showcase that structured approach?
You could say something like, I start by considering the group's age, abilities, and interests. Then I research potential locations, obtain necessary permits, and create a detailed itinerary.
A detailed itinerary, okay. Makes sense.
Right, and don't forget to mention safety protocols and contingency plans.
Of course. Safety first. Always.
Always. You could also add something like, I always conduct pre-trip briefings to discuss potential hazards and make sure everyone understands the safety guidelines.
That's a great point. It shows you're not just throwing people into the wilderness unprepared.
Exactly. It's about being responsible and proactive.
Okay, that's a solid approach to that question.
Yeah.
Now, this next one from RoleCatcher screams flexibility. Can you describe a time when you had to adapt an outdoor activity to meet the needs of a participant?
Ah, yes, the adaptability question. Things rarely go exactly according to plan in the great outdoors, right?
Never. So how do you showcase your ability to roll with the punches, so to speak?
This is another perfect opportunity to use that STAR method. Share a specific situation where you had to think on your feet and adjust the activity.
Okay, I'm getting the hang of this STAR method now. So,
Hmm.
for example, what if you were leading a hike and one of the participants had a fear of heights?
Perfect example. How would you modify the experience to accommodate them?
Hmm. Well, I'd probably acknowledge their fear and maybe suggest an alternate trail with gentler slopes, fewer exposed sections.
Exactly. You could also say, we practiced deep breathing techniques and I stayed close by to offer encouragement and support.
It's all about making them feel safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. You're adapting the activity while maintaining that positive and supportive environment.
That's a great balance to strike. But what if the need for adaptation wasn't so easily addressed? Like, what if a participant had a more significant physical limitation?
That's a great point. It's important to be prepared to discuss your experience working with people of varying abilities.
So, highlighting any adaptive equipment you've used or strategies you've implemented to make activities inclusive.
Exactly. You could mention things like, I've facilitated wheelchair-accessible nature walks, or I've incorporated visual aids to communicate instructions for participants with hearing impairments.
Those are amazing examples. It really shows a commitment to inclusivity and a willingness to go the extra mile.
And even if you haven't encountered a specific situation in your experience, showing a willingness to learn and adapt is key.
So, even if you don't have all the answers, you're eager to find them.
Exactly. You could say something like, I'm eager to learn more about adapting activities to meet diverse needs, and I'm committed to creating an inclusive environment for all participants.
That's a great takeaway. It's about that continuous learning mindset.
For sure. Okay, I'm really curious about this RoleCatcher AI you mentioned. How can it help us tailor our answers to these questions?
Oh, it's pretty cool stuff. Their CV resume builder is particularly helpful.
CV Resume Builder.
Yeah.
What does that do?
It analyzes job descriptions to identify key skills. And then, get this, it helps you weave those skills into your resume and your interview answers.
Wait, so it's like having a personal coach highlighting what employers are looking for.
Exactly. And helping you showcase your strongest assets.
Okay, that's seriously impressive. What else does this AI magic do?
Well, they also have AI-powered video practice.
Video practice,
Yeah.
like recording yourself answering these questions?
Yep. And then getting specific feedback on your delivery, your body language, even your eye contact.
Wow, it's like having a virtual interview coach right there in your pocket.
I know, right? Pretty amazing what technology can do these days.
It's mind-blowing. Okay, so we've tackled some tough interview questions. We've got this AI secret weapon. What else can we do to make sure our listeners feeling super prepared?
Well, before we dive into that, let's circle back to those interview questions. We've still got a few more to unpack.
Let's do it. More questions, more insights.
Exactly. RoleCatcher asks us this one. How do you evaluate the success of an outdoor activity? Now, it seems pretty straightforward, but what are they really getting at here?
Well, it's about more than just checking off a box and saying, yep, we did the activity. It's about reflection, evaluation.
So thinking critically about the overall experience, I like it.
Right. Did the participants have fun? Did they learn something new? Did they feel challenged but not overwhelmed? And of course, was everyone safe? These are all things to consider.
So it's about looking at the big picture, the impact you're making.
Exactly. And gathering feedback is crucial here.
Oh, right. Did RoleCatcher have any tips on how to gather feedback effectively?
They did. They suggest incorporating both informal check-ins during the activity and then more structured feedback sessions afterwards.
But a mix of both. That's smart.
Right. You could say something like, I always make time for debriefings at the end of each day to discuss what went well, what could be improved, and to gather feedback from the participants.
Shows you're always looking for ways to improve and grow.
Exactly. You're not just going through the motions, you're genuinely invested in creating a positive and impactful experience.
Speaking of impact, remember that portfolio we talked about? This could be another great place to showcase your successes.
Oh, for sure.
Like photos of participants beaming with accomplishment after a challenging climb, or quotes from feedback forms praising your leadership skills.
Love it. Those tangible examples really bring your accomplishments to life.
All right, let's tackle another challenging question from RoleCatcher's list. This one is all about conflict resolution. Can you give an example of a time when you had to resolve a conflict between participants during an outdoor activity?
Ah, yes, the inevitable conflict scenario. Because let's face it, when you're dealing with groups of people, especially in potentially stressful situations,
Yeah.
conflicts are bound to happen.
That's just human nature, right?
Mm.
So how do you demonstrate that you can handle these situations effectively?
Well, this is where your interpersonal skills really come into play. Remember, it's not about taking sides or placing blame. It's about facilitating a resolution that addresses everyone's needs and preserves the group dynamic.
Okay, so a delicate balance of fairness and understanding.
Exactly. Would you like to hear a hypothetical example of how you might handle this type of situation?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay, let's say you're leading a group on a multi-day backpacking trip, and two participants are constantly clashing over their shared responsibilities.
Oh, I can see that happening. Tense cooking duties. It can get tense.
For sure. So you could say something like, I first acknowledged their frustrations and created a safe space for them to express their perspectives. Then I helped them identify common ground and facilitated a compromise that allowed both individuals to contribute their strength and feel valued as members of the team.
That's a great example. It highlights those mediation and problem-solving skills.
Right, and it emphasizes the importance of maintaining that positive group dynamic.
But what if the conflict escalates despite your best efforts? Like, what if there's a safety concern or someone's just blatantly disregarding the rules?
Those are important considerations. You could add something like, if a conflict poses a safety risk or disrupts the group's well-being, I would step in more assertively, clearly outlining the expectations and consequences of inappropriate behavior.
So you're not afraid to take charge when necessary.
Exactly. But you're still prioritizing fairness and respect. You can add, my priority is always to ensure a safe and positive environment for everyone.
Okay, I'm liking this approach. It's firm but fair.
Exactly. Now, this next question from RoleCatcher piqued my interest. How do you incorporate environmental education into outdoor activities?
It's about more than just pointing at a pretty flower.
Right. It's about instilling that sense of respect and responsibility for the natural world.
Absolutely. This is your chance to showcase your passion for nature and your understanding of leave no trace principles. You mentioned leave no trace earlier, but I'd love to hear you elaborate on how you'd specifically integrate those principles into an activity.
Sure. Let's say I was leading a camping trip. I'd demonstrate proper waste disposal techniques, emphasize the importance of staying on designated trails.
To minimize impact, right?
Exactly. Encourage the group to observe wildlife from a respectful distance. I might even incorporate a fun game or activity to reinforce those concepts.
Oh, I love that idea. Making it engaging and interactive.
Right. Because who says learning about the environment can't be fun?
Exactly. But what if you're working with a group that's already familiar with leave no trace? How do you tailor your approach to their existing knowledge?
That's a great question. I believe in meeting people where they're at. If they've got a solid understanding of leave no trace already, I might challenge them to brainstorm creative ways to minimize their impact. Or we could discuss the broader ecological challenges facing the area we're exploring.
So deepening their understanding and encouraging that critical thinking.
Exactly. Because environmental education is an ongoing journey, right? It's not a one-time lesson.
I love that perspective. Okay, so we've talked about safety, inclusivity, environmental awareness. Now, RoleCatcher has another question that seems pretty crucial. How do you manage your time and prioritize tasks as a specialized outdoor animator? Because it sounds like a lot to juggle.
It definitely is. You've got all these moving parts. Planning activities, managing logistics, ensuring safety. It's a constant balancing act.
So how do you stay organized amidst all the chaos?
Well, it's a combination of strategies. I rely heavily on detailed to-do lists, color-coded calendars, even project management apps.
Okay, so staying organized is key. But what about those unexpected curveballs that inevitably come up? How do you prioritize when everything feels important?
That's where those strong communication and collaboration skills come into play. I would consult with my team, assess the urgency and importance of each task, and make informed decisions that align with the overall goals of the program.
So it's about teamwork and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's about making tough decisions on the fly.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you're prepping for a kayaking trip and you discover that a crucial piece of safety equipment is damaged.
Oh no, that's not good.
Right. So you could say, I would immediately prioritize finding a replacement or repair solution, even if it meant adjusting the schedule or delegating other tasks to my team. Safety always comes first.
Absolutely. No compromise on safety.
Exactly. But sometimes the decision isn't so clear-cut, you know?
Right. What if you're facing multiple demands and there's no easy answer?
That's when those leadership skills really shine. You involve the team in the decision-making process, clearly explain the risks and benefits of each option, and strive to reach a consensus that prioritizes everyone's well-being.
So collaborative leadership is key.
Exactly. And speaking of tough decisions, RoleCatcher has one final question that I think we should address. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision during an outdoor activity?
Oh, this one sounds intense. What are they trying to gauge with this question?
They're looking for insight into your judgment, your ability to remain calm under pressure, and ultimately your commitment to making responsible choices, even when it's hard.
So showing that you can assess the risks, weigh the options, and make a decision that prioritizes safety and well-being, even if it's not the most popular choice.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about describing the situation, it's about explaining your thought process. What factors did you consider? What were the potential consequences? And what did you learn from the experience?
Okay, let's put this into a real-life scenario. Say you were leading a group on a rock climbing expedition, and one of the participants started experiencing severe altitude sickness.
Great example. What would you do?
Well, I'd immediately assess their condition, consider the severity of their symptoms, the availability of medical assistance.
And the group's overall preparedness for an evacuation?
Right. If the situation warranted it, I wouldn't hesitate to make the difficult decision to descend and seek medical attention.
Even if it meant cutting the trip short.
Even if it meant cutting the trip short, safety has to come first.
Exactly. That shows a lot of courage and a willingness to prioritize safety over personal ambition or the group's disappointment. But what if the decision isn't so black and white? What if there are multiple factors to consider and no easy solution?
Those are the really tough calls.
They are. And that's where strong leadership and communication skills are essential. You involve the group in the decision-making process as appropriate, clearly explain the risks and benefits of each option, and strive to reach a consensus that puts everyone's safety and well-being first.
Wow, we've covered so much ground already.
We have. From unpacking those tricky interview questions to exploring RoleCatcher's awesome AI tools and gleaning some valuable career advice along the way.
I'm feeling much more prepared for this interview already.
Me too. But you know, even if the specific opportunity doesn't work out, the skills and insights we've discussed today will be valuable throughout your career journey.
That's a great point. It's all about continuous learning and growth. And hey, maybe we'll do another deep dive someday on how to build that killer portfolio.
I am always up for another deep dive. But for now, let's focus on helping you ace this interview.
Okay, so we've tackled those interview questions. We've talked about those awesome AI tools. What else can we do to make sure our listener is truly ready for this interview?
Well, we've talked a lot about specific skills and experience, but I think there's something else that's equally important. That genuine passion for the outdoors.
Oh, you're so right. Enthusiasm is contagious.
It really is. After all, this job is about sharing your love of nature and adventure with others. If you're not passionate about it, it's going to show.
So how do you convey that passion without sounding cheesy or over-rehearsed?
Think back to a moment when you were truly in your element, you know? Maybe leading a group on a breathtaking hike, witnessing a stunning sunset from a mountain peak, or simply feeling that sense of awe and wonder in the wilderness.
Those moments that just take your breath away.
Exactly. Tap into those feelings and let them infuse your answers. It's about bringing those genuine experiences to life.
And connecting those experiences back to the job requirements.
Yes. You could say, I'm incredibly passionate about sharing my love of nature with others, and I'm particularly excited about the opportunity to lead kayaking trips in this stunning coastal environment. Something like that.
Perfect example. It's about showing that you're not just looking for a job, but a way to live your passion.
Exactly. And remember, interviewers are looking for someone who will bring energy and enthusiasm to the role, so don't be afraid to let your personality shine through.
That's a great reminder. We've focused so much on preparation and strategy. It's easy to forget that interviews are also about human connection.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right fit, both for you and the organization.
Okay, I'm feeling really good about this interview now. Thanks for all the amazing insights. I think our listeners are going to rock it.
Me too. Remember, go into that interview with confidence, knowing that you've prepared thoroughly, you've practiced your answers, and you're ready to showcase your passion and expertise.
And even if this particular opportunity doesn't work out, remember that every interview is a learning experience.
So true. Take those lessons learned and apply them to the next one.
Go in there, be yourself, showcase your passion, and most importantly, have fun.
Yes. Have fun. The adventure awaits. It's not just about completing the activity, it's more about reflecting on the whole experience, you know, and figuring out what could be even better.
Yeah, like how do you know if it was actually a success?
Exactly. So did the participants have fun? Did they actually learn something? Did they feel challenged but not like totally overwhelmed?
And of course, was everyone safe?
Of course, safety first, always. But yeah, it's about looking at all those aspects.
It sounds like getting feedback is crucial then.
It is for sure. Did RoleCatcher have any tips on doing that effectively?
They did, actually. They suggest a mix of informal check-ins during the activity.
Yep. Keeping a pulse on things as you go.
Exactly. And then more structured feedback sessions afterward.
Like a wrap-up where everyone can share their thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. You could even say something like, I always make time for debriefings at the end of each day to discuss what went well, what could be improved, and to gather feedback from everyone.
I like that it shows you're really invested in making the experience the best it can be.
And speaking of showcasing those successes, remember that portfolio we talked about?
Oh yeah, that's a great place to really bring those accomplishments to life.
Exactly. You could include photos of participants, beaming after a challenging climb.
Love it. Those visuals are so powerful.
Or maybe quotes from those feedback forums we talked about, praising your leadership or adaptability.
Oh yeah, those first-hand accounts really add that personal touch.
Okay, so we've covered evaluating success now. Let's tackle another tricky question from RoleCatcher's list. This one focuses on conflict resolution. Can you give an example of a time when you had to resolve a conflict between participants during an outdoor activity?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Conflicts are bound to happen when you've got a group of people, especially in, potentially stressful situations.
Exactly. So how do you show that you can handle those situations calmly, fairly, and effectively?
Well, first remember, it's not about taking sides.
Right. You're not a judge?
Exactly. It's about facilitating a resolution that works for everyone and helps maintain that positive group dynamic.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
It is. Maybe a hypothetical scenario would be helpful here.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay, so imagine you're leading a group on a multi-day backpacking trip.
Okay. I'm picturing it.
And two participants are constantly clashing over their shared responsibilities.
Oh, I can see that happening, sharing a tent. Cooking duties can get tense.
For sure. So you could say, I first acknowledged their frustrations and created a safe space for them to express their perspectives.
Okay, so starting with open communication.
Exactly. And then you could say, I helped them identify common ground and facilitated a compromise that allowed both individuals to contribute their strengths and feel valued as members of the team.
I like that it highlights your ability to mediate and problem solve while still keeping that positive group dynamic in mind.
It's all connected, right? But what if the conflict escalates despite your best efforts?
That's a good point. What if there's a safety concern or blatant disregard for the rules?
Right. In those cases, you might need to step in a bit more assertively.
Okay, so laying down the law.
In a way, you could say, if a conflict poses a safety risk or disrupts the group's well-being, I would step in more assertively, clearly outlining the expectations and consequences of inappropriate behavior.
So it's about setting boundaries.
Exactly. You can also add, my priority is always to ensure a safe and positive environment for everyone.
That's a good way to reiterate your commitment to safety and well-being.
Okay, moving on. RoleCatcher has another question that I found really interesting. How do you incorporate environmental education into outdoor activities?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's more than just pointing out a pretty flower or naming a bird, right?
Right. It's about weaving environmental awareness into the fabric of the experience.
So like really immersing the participants in nature and its importance.
Exactly. This is your chance to showcase your passion for the environment and your understanding of those leave no trace principles we talked about.
I'm really curious how you'd actually put that into practice.
Sure. Let's say I'm leading a camping trip. I demonstrate proper waste disposal techniques, emphasize the importance of staying on designated trails to minimize our impact, and encourage the group to observe wildlife from a safe and respectful distance.
That all makes perfect sense.
I might even throw in a fun game or activity to really drive those concepts home,
Oh, I love that, making it interactive and engaging.
Exactly. But what if the group is already pretty knowledgeable about leave no trace?
Good point. How do you adapt to their existing knowledge level?
I'm all about meeting people where they're at. So if a group is already familiar with those principles, I might challenge them to brainstorm creative ways to minimize their impact even further. Or we could discuss some of the broader ecological challenges facing the area we're exploring.
Deepening their understanding even more.
Right, because environmental education is a lifelong journey.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, gifting gears a bit. RoleCatcher asks this question. How do you manage your time and prioritize tasks as a specialized outdoor animator?
Time management, that's a big one in this role. There's always so much going on.
Right? Planning activities, managing logistics, ensuring safety. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. I rely on a few key things. detailed to-do lists, color-coded calendars, and project management apps. Oh, and a good dose of flexibility.
Flexibility because things rarely go according to plan.
Exactly. You have to be able to adapt and reprioritize on the fly.
Can you give an example of how you might handle that in a real-life scenario?
Sure. Let's say you're prepping for a kayaking trip and you discover that a crucial piece of safety equipment is damaged.
Oh, that's not good.
No. So in that situation, you could say, I would immediately prioritize finding a replacement or repair solution, even if it meant adjusting the schedule or delegating other tasks to my team. Safety always comes first.
Makes sense. You can't compromise on safety.
Exactly. But sometimes the decision isn't as clear-cut.
Right. What if you're faced with multiple demands and there's no obvious right answer?
That's where those strong communication and collaboration skills come in again. I would consult with my team, assess the urgency and importance of each task, and make an informed decision that aligns with our overall goals.
It sounds like a very collaborative approach.
It is. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. Okay, are you ready for the final question from RoleCatcher?
Hit me with it.
Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision during an outdoor activity?
Ooh, that sounds intense. What are they hoping to hear with this one?
They're looking for insight into your judgment,
Yeah.
your ability to stay calm under pressure, and your commitment to making responsible choices even when it's really challenging.
So basically showing that you can handle the heat.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about describing the situation. It's about explaining your thought process. What factors did you consider? What were the potential consequences of each option? And what did you learn from the experience? All of that is super important.
Okay, let's put this into a real-life scenario. Let's say you were leading a group on a rock climbing expedition, and one of the participants started experiencing severe altitude sickness.
Okay, that's a tough one. What would you do?
Well, I'd immediately assess their condition, obviously, considering things like the severity of their symptoms, the availability of medical assistance, and our overall preparedness for an evacuation.
Okay, so thinking through all the possible options.
Exactly. And if the situation warranted it, I wouldn't hesitate to make the difficult decision to descend and seek medical attention, even if it meant cutting the trip short.
That's a really important point. Sometimes the safest choice is also the hardest one.
Absolutely. You have to prioritize well-being over personal ambition or even the group's disappointment.
But what if the decision isn't so clear-cut? What if there are multiple factors to consider and no perfect solution?
Those are the gray areas that really test your leadership skills.
For sure, in these situations, I think it's crucial to involve the group in the decision-making process as appropriate.
So open communication and transparency.
Exactly. Clearly explain the risks and benefits of each option and strive to reach a consensus that prioritizes everyone's safety and well-being. It's about finding that balance.
Okay, so it seems like the ability to adapt, communicate effectively, and prioritize safety, those are recurring themes throughout all of these interview questions.
You got it. Those are the core qualities interviewers are looking for in a specialized outdoor animator.
I think we've covered a ton of ground today.
We have. It's been a deep dive for sure.
We've explored the role in depth, tackled those tough interview questions, and even gotten some insider tips from RoleCatcher's AI tools. I'm feeling way more prepared for this interview now.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, even if this particular opportunity doesn't work out, the skills and insights you've gained will be incredibly valuable as you continue your career journey.
That's a great point. It's all about continuous learning and growth.
Exactly. And hey, maybe we'll do another deep dive someday on how to build that killer portfolio we talked about.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
But for now, let's focus on helping you ace this interview.
Yes, let's do this. Yeah, it's about more than just ticking off those boxes,
Right. It's about conveying that you're not just in it for the paycheck, but because you genuinely love what you do.
Exactly. You got to have that spark, that enthusiasm. It's what makes a good outdoor animator great.
Okay, so how do you convey that passion without sounding like you're reading from a script?
Well, think back to a time when you were truly in your element. Maybe you were leading a group on a hike and you reached this incredible viewpoint.
Oh, I love those moments.
Right. Or maybe you witnessed a stunning sunset from a mountain peak, or just felt that sense of awe and wonder being out in nature.
Those moments that just make you feel so alive.
Exactly. Tap into those feelings and let them infuse your answers. It's about bringing those genuine experiences to life.
And connecting those experiences back to the job you're interviewing for.
Yes. For example, you could say something like, I'm incredibly passionate about sharing my love of nature with others, and I'm particularly excited about the opportunity to lead kayaking trips in this stunning coastal environment.
Perfect. It shows that you're not just looking for any job. You're looking for a way to live your passion.
And remember, the interviewer is looking for someone who's going to bring that energy and enthusiasm to the role.
So don't be afraid to let your personality shine through.
Exactly. Be authentic. Be yourself.
We focus so much on preparation and strategy, it's easy to forget that interviews are also about human connection.
It's true. You want to connect with the interviewer, show them who you are beyond just your skills and experience.
Find that right fit both for you and the organization.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive.
We've explored the role in depth, tackled those tough interview questions, and even gotten some insider tips from RoleCatcher's AI.
And hopefully we've given our listeners the tools and confidence they need to really rock that interview.
I think so. Even if this particular opportunity doesn't work out, remember all the valuable skills and insights you've gained.
That's right. Every interview is a learning experience.
Take those lessons learned and apply them to the next one.
So go in there, be yourself, showcase your passion, and most importantly,
Have fun.
exactly, the adventure awaits.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, everyone.
Best of luck out there.